It's clearly a show of how the Can Diversity Collective is inclusive for all groups, and the stage is for all people. DE&I is about the human connection business, and the way we work is helping you learn more about the human connection business, not just from a race, gender perspective, but from religion, from socioeconomics, from body diversity, neurodiversity. All those key elements play in the business of inclusion. So coming up next, we have Mubashira. Oh, look, I'm on camera. Come on up for our next panelist. Want you guys to come on up? Yes. Please give a round of applause to Mubashira and Amani. And we're going to be talking about Muslim women in the media, changing the script.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you had a great lunch, your stomachs are full, you're feeling refreshed, because we are going to get right into it. My name is Mubashira Faruqi. I am the founder and host of Color Me PR podcast, which I founded in 2020 to help amplify the voices and representation of diverse women in media, marketing, and communications industries. I'm also a senior consultant and global DE&I consultant at Fleischman Hillard High Road. And last year, I had the incredible honor of being an ambassador for the Can Diversity Collective. Adrienne brought myself and about 25 other young people to Cannes Lions to be part of this incredible global festival and experience what it is like to be here. And this year, I decided I need to come back and be part of the team helping to run the event this year. So I had the huge honor of supporting Adrienne and the team at Cannes Lions again this year. So I want to begin just again by thanking Adrienne for creating this space for us. You know, as a visible Muslim woman, I feel like there isn't a ton of representation yet for us at Cannes Lions, and to have this stage is an incredible opportunity, one which I do not take lightly. And so I'd like to introduce the incredible guest that I'll be inviting up shortly. We will be talking about Muslim women in media and how we are changing the script. So I'd like to welcome to the stage a critically acclaimed author, activist, and cultural innovator. She's a social media pioneer who founded MuslimGirl.com, the award-winning media company championing Muslim women's voices in today's society. Hailed as a media titan by the New York Times, she grew her teen blog to become the first Muslim-owned company to land on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. She created Muslim Women's Day, the annual international media day, focusing on Muslim stories with some of the world's most influential partners, including Apple, Spotify, Meta, and TikTok. Her book, Muslim Girl, A Coming of Age, is a 2-time editor's pick on the New York Times bestsellers list. She was named one of CNN's 25 most influential American Muslims and was one of the first hijabi Muslim women to speak on the Cannes Lions stage. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Amani.
Wow, what a welcome. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you all for coming out on what we consider to be the bonus extra credit day at Cannes Lions on a beautiful Friday. I hope everyone has amazing plans lined up for tonight and will be joining us at the closing party. But Mubashira, thank you so much for the warm welcome. So happy to be here again.
Of course. And it's hard to believe we met only a year ago, and we actually met here at Cannes Lions, and we immediately felt connected because we don't see a ton of hijabi Muslim women walking around Cannes this time of year, but that's something that I think both of us are committed to changing. And so I'm so happy to have you here and that we're able to now, a year later, have this conversation on the Inkwell Beach stage. So I know that you've been coming to Cannes Lions for quite a few years now, and I'd love to know just how you feel like your experience has changed over the past couple of years, because for me, being on Inkwell Beach, I feel like this is a very safe space, a very unique space that we don't experience across the Croisette. So tell me about how you feel representation has changed over the last couple of years at Cannes.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I had to try to count it out a few times. I think this is my 4th or 5th Cannes Lions, and I've been coming at it from every angle, from main stage speaker to jury member to attendee to the wonderful talks. And one thing that's definitely very noticeable since the beginning, since I started coming here around 23 years old, is that diversity has definitely become a mainstay when it comes to the themes that we address and that we talk about here. But in terms of the voices that we hear from, I can't say that we have seen such a radical difference yet. I think this is probably the closest that we're getting to it, is having Inkwell Beach and such an incredibly diverse program here. But the goal is definitely to have more integration into the main program and see more of our voices, more of our faces represented, and more of that visibility, because everyone is talking about us, and we need to be the ones leading that conversation.
Absolutely. And that's another thing I feel you and I can connect on, is that we've used the platforms that we've created when we felt like there weren't those opportunities already existing. For me, I created Color Me PR podcast in an industry where I felt like Muslim women's voices or diverse women's voices were not represented. And it was incredibly important to me that the next person that comes in after me doesn't experience that same challenge. I wanted to make sure, because I came into the industry feeling like there was no one else like me, but that wasn't the case. They were there, they just didn't have the platform to share their voices. And that's why sharing, creating these stages is so essential, because those voices are there, they just need that platform. And I wonder if it was a similar experience for you with Muslim Girl. I mean, of course, it's become an incredible entity now, but what was the origin of that for you?
I mean, I'll be honest, when I started Muslim Girl, I started it very selfishly because I didn't have a space. I couldn't find a community where I was growing up. I'm born and raised in Jersey. Being a Jersey girl is the first identity that I've ever attached myself to. And I grew up in a very homogenous hometown. So obviously not finding community IRL, I did what any young person would do, which is I went on social media. I used technology to create a space. And I say that it was very selfishly because not only was I not seeing a representation or a reflection of myself and my friends in the media around us, but also I didn't have friends that were from my background. I knew that there were very unique experiences that we were having growing up in a post 9/11 era. And the very few online spaces that were available to Muslims were, of course, mixed gender. So there were always men's voices dominating the women's. And they felt very irrelevant to the modern issues impacting us. Like, they were so focused on, like, can a Muslim woman wear nail polish? What's the proper way for her to wear her hijab? And things that were just completely irrelevant to the real life or death situations that we were experiencing with Islamophobia. For me, it was extreme bullying growing up. It was a lot of confusion about growing up as the new generation with one foot in two cultures. I was born and raised in the States. My parents are immigrants and refugees. And I was leading this modern lifestyle while still wanting to subscribe to my Islamic faith and my cultural identity, but I didn't know how. And I knew I couldn't be the only one facing those questions. And I didn't find other girls from my background that I could connect with and share those experiences with. So I was hoping, if you build it, they will come. That Muslim girl, if I put it out there, I could find that generation of Muslim girls, and we can all come together and tell our stories on our own terms.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like the same thing with my podcast. I definitely started it a little bit selfishly in that I just wanted to build community, but that community has become so central to me. Like, it feels like a group of people that are dedicated to uplifting each other versus just trying to find your own path. You have a whole community to work with. And so tell me about the Muslim Girl journey. How has it grown, and where do you feel it is today? How do you feel like it contributes to the conversation in media today?
I mean, when I started Muslim Girl when I was a teenager, I don't even think that I had an idea of where it would reach today. It's definitely become much more than a teen blog and a company much bigger than me now. But I am very proud that Muslim Girl has become one of the most influential forces in rebranding the way that we understand our generation of Muslims, especially in Western societies, from all of the high-level partnerships that we have across the board that with media partners, including one of our partners here at Cannes Lions, Getty Images, to really make sure that we have visual representation that changes the way that people perceive us. So like, for example, for the longest time, whenever I did a speaking engagement, the way that I would open it up is I would invite the audience to whip out their cell phones and open up Google image search and type in Muslim women and see what pops up. And for the longest time, it was always walls of search results of the same image over and over of these battered-looking Muslim women hidden behind black face veils. You could only see their eyes, looking depressed, looking victimized. And at one point, it occurred to me, why is this still a thing? Like, we need to change this. So our partnership with Getty Images came about very organically, where we created a whole resource of visuals through the Muslim woman's lens of how we represent ourselves more authentically in our own way. And especially in today's digital media era, visuals are everything, right? The way that we connect and understand with other communities is all online now. And through the Muslim Women's Day campaign, now with high-level partners across the board, like you mentioned, partnered with every social media platform, we pledge one day during Women's History Month every year to push Muslim stories in a positive light. And it's now become the biggest media day where our voices are amplified, people get access to our narratives and highlight work that we're doing that they don't get to see anywhere else. And I would have to say that right now, with what's trending, I'm super proud of the fact that Muslim Girl also worked with Mattel to pitch the first hijabi Barbie. That was based off of one of my good friends, Ibtihaj Muhammad. And we need more. I think it's time for us to see more diversity in even the way that Muslim women are represented. One Barbie is not enough. So just going through all these different industries and breaking into spaces in different unique ways to just challenge people's perception and stereotypes of who we are, that's the key. And I think that's what has allowed Muslim Girl to grow into the force that it's become today. Oh no, Islamophobia.
I think we ran the batteries out on that one. I was just gonna say there's so much intersectionality, right? And for us being, second, third generation kids, like especially for us, we experience not feeling like we're a complete fit with necessarily one culture, but then also, we're women, but then we're also Muslim, and then we're also, there's so many layers to this experience that those three walls of images that we see in that Google search is not enough, right? And so that's the thing that I really appreciate about the conversation that we're having today, is because even you and I will have so many different interpretations of our faith or how we identify as Muslim women, but that doesn't change the fact that we are Muslim women and we deserve the same platform and stage. So I absolutely agree. And just thinking about this intersectionality, it reminds me of some of my favorite representations of Muslim women that I've seen recently. And I think for me, one of them has been Miss Marvel. So I don't know if anyone's seen the show. Big fan. And it's a great example, especially for our young people who can...
So brown girl from Jersey City, right?
Yeah.
So like...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So did they get your notes?
What's that?
Did they take your notes? Because
We had to share some notes on that experience. Exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love Miss Marvel.
Exactly. And I come from a Pakistani background, so for me to see elements of my culture and my faith, but then also I'm from Canada, but similar-ish culture to the US, I'd say. See all those things come together in one place was so impactful, and to know that I may not have grown up with that, but that the future generations will is absolutely incredible. So definitely more different types of Muslim Barbies would be incredible. So I look forward to that.
I mean, also with Miss Marvel, obviously absolute breakthrough of a program. Muslim Girl became the first Muslim media company to ever cover a Marvel red carpet when we covered their premiere. Wow. So it kind of shows that when we have projects that are by us and for us, it opens the doors wide open in so many different ways. And it's why it's so crucial that when those projects happen, like we just saw with The Little Mermaid, for example, we need to be going out there and supporting them in droves, because when they see that there's that result, then it's only going to result in more funding for us, more opportunities, more productions, more projects, and we need to prove that point over and over again.
Absolutely. And when I think about what we here at Cannes Lions as creatives, as storytellers, what we need to think about when it comes to representation of Muslim women, it is, again, that intersectionality piece for me, right? The representation of a Muslim woman isn't just one that looks like me, or that looks like Malala, or that looks like a woman in a black niqab. There are so many different versions of that, and I think that's something we need to be considering as storytellers.
Absolutely.
So who are some of your favorite Muslim representations of women?
Ooh. Well, I think that I have to kick it off with one of our clients, We Are Lady Parts at Peacock. They have done such an amazing job. It's a show based on a Muslim women's rock band. So the story is very much, it has its own plot line. And I think the representation that we're really pushing for is where our characters don't rest on our identities as being their main plot line, but rather that they have their own lives, they have multidimensional characters that just so happen to be Muslims. I'm also a huge fan of what we did with the Princess Jasmine story for the Aladdin live action remake.
Yeah.
That was a project that I was personally involved in, and for anyone that saw that movie, we took Princess Jasmine from being through the white male gaze, which is something that I didn't realize until I became a grown adult. I always loved Princess Jasmine. She was the only representation I ever had growing up, until you get a little older and you realize, oh, they actually had her in a red belly dancing outfit and chains, and that it was a very male gaze representation of who we are. Being able to work on that project and really reimagine her story of her being empowered to use her voice by the end of the film, I think was a really powerful, full circle moment.
I love that. That's really exciting, and I hope we see more of this represented in our Cannes Lions submissions too. So in the coming years, I know you were at the Roger Hatchwell Academy as well earlier today. How do you feel like we can incorporate more Muslim representation in what we're seeing on these international stages? I mean, we're having this conversation today, and I know you, again, were one of the very first hijabi Muslim women to speak on the Cannes Lions stage, but why do you think it's so important for us to have these spaces, and what can we do to encourage more of this, or what can you all do to encourage?
I mean, isn't that crazy that Cannes Lions has been around for 70 years? And it took that long to have a hijabi woman go on the main stage. And I think that really proves the point of what's the problem here. We need to listen to communities, right? It can't just be the same teams that are hand selecting who gets to have a platform, who gets to be heard. We need to actually consult the communities that we want to represent and hear from them directly of who they want to see, who needs to have that platform, who deserves the spotlight, and really reflect programs based on those requests, based on those ideas. But they need to be involved in the process from the very beginning. It doesn't make sense to attempt to serve a community without involving that community in the decision making. And when it comes to the main stage, as we all know, with the main stage speakers, there is specific funding allocated to those voices. So we need to make sure that that funding is being allocated to people of color taking the main stage as well, and people of color from many different diverse backgrounds. Inkwell Beach has been an incredible development for Cannes Lions. It's what, 1 or 2 years old now?
So this is our 5th year, actually.
Oh, it is? On the beach?
Of Inkwell Beach at Cannes, yeah.
All right, you see. Snaps for that. It's incredible and still fairly young in the context of Cannes Lions. And we need a space where we can convene like this. To me, this is my safe space. I come here, I feel seen, heard. I see my girls. I know I'm always going to run into my people here. What we don't want to see happen is the lack of integration into the main features at Cannes Lions, where we're kind of relegated to just the sidelines rather than being a focal feature. So this is a great step, but we're not done here. We need to demand more space, more energy, because we're not here to talk in silos. We all get this. We know these conversations better than anybody, but I mean, literally look at the audience. Where are the allies that should be listening to conversations like this? Where are they? Like, it can't just be all talk. And I think that's really what the next step in the evolution is gonna look like.
Absolutely. We're bringing the allies. We'll bring them here. Amazing. I know you and I have also talked a lot about authentic representation, right? We don't want Muslim representation to just be another, box that's checked off in the list of things to include, whoever is in the background of a scene or something like that, or who's in your graphic image. We want it to be a deeper representation. And part of that means that we need to think about what our sources are and where the information is coming from and how authentic it is. That's why we have platforms like Muslim Girls, that it's content from young Muslim women themselves. Those are authentic voices that you can trust and that you can learn from. So, you and I have talked about authenticities as a form of currency now, and in this, increasingly digital age, where we have AI that can completely distort realities, how important it is to have authentic sources and to be able to find those credible sources.
No, absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason why our communities have our own independent media platforms now and why they have become so vastly successful. It's why, for example, you started your own podcast. I mean, Mubashara was literally the first other hijabi that I ever encountered at Cannes Lions. And
besides Malala,
this beachside chat would not be happening if you weren't involved in the programming at the decision-making level. So we need so many more people like that, like you, doing the work behind the scenes, in front of the camera and behind it, to make sure that we're being amplified and represented and continue that evolution. And it's necessary for us to have our own platforms where we do tell our own stories in our own way, because with Muslim Girl, for example, we couldn't rely on the mainstream to tell our stories. For the longest time, whenever we heard about anything related to Muslim women, it was always non-Muslims and non-women doing all of the talking on our behalf. And they historically got it wrong every single time. And we see tangibly what the effects of that are on our community. It resulted in real-life foreign policies based on misinformation that ravaged Muslim women and children more than anybody in the name of our liberation. So when we are talking about topics regarding communities that are different than our own, go to the source. We can't rely on the usual suspects to be able to get that information. They're not gonna tell us in our own truth. They'll never be able to tell us in our own truth until we tell them how to do that in our own way. And the only way we get that power is when we come together and we support the projects that are being led by our communities and that are being owned by our communities, and pushing those forward to the point where we are able to not go to them to tell our stories, but then they're coming to us and asking us to be involved in the conversation, or asking us to help them when it comes to us leading those conversations for them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think you're absolutely right. For me, my podcast was a way to do that, right? Was to create an authentic place to share my experience, for me specifically as a Muslim woman in communications, right? Where we don't often hear, like I, for example, work in an agency setting, which is very, very fast-paced. How does my Muslim identity interact in that space, right? How do I exist in that space? A lot of folks don't understand that. For example, I need time in the day to take a break to pray, or to adhere to my faith, and how that impacts the work that I do. So absolutely, I love the idea of creating these spaces for ourselves, and then for our allies to be able to support us in that. Well, I'd love to open it up for a bit of a Q&A, if you're open to that. So if anyone has any questions, and honestly, I think we're both pretty open books, so we'd be happy to chat and share.
Hello, my name's Ruby. I run a PR agency in the UK for the Black British Experience. So I really love this. And I wanted to just ask, have you found any brands who get what you're trying to do and actually are really positive, supportive, and have come and said, yeah, we want to support, we want to give you, capital, we want to give you money for certain things, and it's not a struggle conversation? And if you have had any brands that were like that, what was it like, and what would you say for brands who want to be like that?
Ooh, I mean, I have case studies on both sides of that, girl. Like, we could talk all day about it. But in terms of brands that have been successful collaborations that I felt have been really supportive, I'm so proud of the collab that we did with Adidas Originals. So Adidas Originals tapped us to do a capsule collection that was inclusive, modest focused. We did a few different iterations of it. It included hijabs, which was really exciting for us, that were marketed as headscarves that anybody can wear. Clearly, I'm rocking the Adidas today for that reason. And one thing that was really great was internally, we brought it up with Adidas that, look, if we're doing something catered to our community, we need to be able to give back. And so because of that, Adidas Originals pledged a monetary fund to several different minority communities and small businesses, and even included those small businesses as the location sets for our photo shoots for the commercials that were marketed worldwide in campaigns around the globe. And we also even included some of the small business owners to be part of those photo shoots for us. And those are all, they've been on billboards. I got the opportunity to go to the World Cup with Adidas during the collaboration, and it was in the flagship stores across the Middle East. And it was just lovely to see, that the work being done to market to the community is also behind the scenes doing something to give back as well. And I think that that's the main key component. Now, we've also worked with brands that were eager to collaborate with us so that they can get their piece of the pie from the Muslim community. And then later on down the line, we would throw all of this PR behind them, a lot of creative direction, and even messaging of how to get the talking points right to address our community in a way that's meaningful. And then once they do that, we had this one brand that we were working with, and as soon as we launched, soon after that, the CEO was exposed with all of these old social media posts that he was making that were anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, anti-Black. And because of that, even though that collaboration brought in probably the biggest surge of revenue that we had seen up until that point, it was necessary for us to cut ties with them because it was just completely contrary to the values that we represent. So a lot of times, unfortunately, when you're on the front lines and you're working with brands that have never worked with communities like ours before, you really have to set the bar. And sometimes that means turning down a bag if it means that the mission is more important. And I think that that's where we are in the journey right now.
Absolutely. And I'd say while we're paying attention to the big brands, it's also really important to support some of the smaller Muslim woman-owned brands. There's a ton that I could name. I know Haute Hijab is one that I believe, have connected with previously.
I'm wearing them right now.
Yeah, there we go. Lyra swimwear. For me, coming to Cannes, being by the beach, I wanted to make sure I have modest swimwear that I can have. So keep an eye on some of those brands as well.
I'm Harrietta, and I'm also from London.
Get up closer.
And my question is, how can the younger generation of Muslim girls also support this movement, and what could we be doing to basically push that change? And how can employers also get involved?
I feel like that's something that I've thought a lot about, especially in the last few years, and especially when I was launching my podcast. Just know how powerful your voice is. Your one singular voice has so much power to create change. When I initially launched my podcast, I thought that maybe my husband would listen to it, my parents, a friend or two here or there, and it now has a global reach with listeners from every single continent. And I have people from all different backgrounds that reach out and share how they resonate with these stories and with the conversations that we're having. So just understand that you may not know in the moment the impact that can come from you sharing your voice, but it will come. And the hardest step is always that first one, right? Of sharing your voice and feeling confident enough to share your voice on these different platforms. I'm incredibly honored to be here today on this global stage to speak, but it started with me placing an Amazon order for a podcast mic and then speaking into it. So yeah, just trust in that initial step.
What I would like to add to that is something that I heard during one of his talks. So Gary Vaynerchuk is one of our investors at Muslim Girl. And I attended one of his talks here at Cannes Lions a few days ago, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said that we used to live in an era where everyone is famous for 15 minutes, and now we live in an era where everyone is famous to 15 people. And I completely agree with that. With social media, a lot of times we play the numbers game, and one of the questions that I get the most is people asking me like, oh, I don't have that many people following me. How can I make an impact? Will anyone even care? And it's like, yes, people will care. It's called the butterfly effect. Even if you have 2 people following you, what you're sharing online is going to affect those 2 people, and those 2 people are going to affect the X amount of people that follow them, and the X amount of people that follow those people, and it's exponential. It's a ripple effect. You don't know how you're going to resonate with not only your immediate community, but the community that ripples outward. And it's always important to start there. Start with your neighborhood, your immediate community, the people within your immediate social group. And I mean, that's literally how Muslim Girl started. And it grew from there. It's just building blocks. But your voice will always make a difference. And today with social media, there's absolutely no excuse. Like you have a weapon of mass destruction sitting in your pocket at all times.
Any more burning questions?
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for the talk. It was really, really inspiring and so lovely to meet you both and hear your stories. So my name's Laiba, and I'm the first hijabi UGC creator. And basically, I'm very new to the industry, and I've seen a big trend of people of color and black people, especially women, being underpaid. And that's something so hard to fight, because not only now you're trying to prove your worth to these brands, which should already see it, which obviously you guys have already dealt with before, but it's also about like making sure that you're not leaving money on the table, you're being paid your worth, you're growing, etc. So how do you, what advice would you give to someone who is starting out in the industry, how to kind of compete with these people who are going to have that privilege the second they step in the room, and I'm going to have that underprivilege the second I step in the room? So many brands don't want to work with me because I wear hijab. There's so many different barriers that I've had to face so far. But my main thing is definitely now with social media, we have a lot of things like salary transparency. Creators are now opening up and talking about how they've been treated. The Tart trip recently that happened, a lot of people of color that went, they weren't treated properly. So what advice would you give to that kind of thing?
Always go where you're wanted. There's literally no reason to work with or affiliate with people that are not treating you with the respect that you deserve. As badly as we want to work with them, if they're not getting it right, we shouldn't give our power away to them. And I think that's one part of it, is there's always going to be that aspect of the imposter syndrome. Like, do I deserve this? Should I be grateful for whatever I get? And actually, at the Roger Hatchell Academy, during my talk, one of the students there asked me a question that I've been reflecting on all week. She was a young woman of color, one of the only women of color that was in that space. I think she was from Nigeria. And she asked me, when do we have the privilege to say no? And it stuck with me because, for our communities, for people that look like us, a lot of times the opportunities are scarce and you feel like you have to say yes to everything that comes your way. But my thought about that is that it's not the privilege to say no, it's the power to say no. And a lot of times, if you're being pulled into something, it's because you got something that they want. And right now, a lot of brands are eager to tap into the culture. They want that secret sauce. They want us to give them the recipe. And because of that, we do have to know what our worth is. And there's no reason for us to give it to them for free or to just lay ourselves at their feet for whatever they're offering us. It's our responsibility to set that value for them and lead the way. And also know, for my brothers and sisters in the audience, but also for the women of color here, that when you stand in your power, you are being your sister's keeper. It's not selfish. Don't let anyone make you think that you asking for what you're worth is being selfish or that you're being ungrateful, okay? When you stand in your power, you are setting the tone for all the women that are gonna walk through that door after you. So don't sell yourself short. That's what I have to say about that.
Mic drop. I can't add.
I'm very passionate about this topic. I have been through some ish in this space. I've seen it all. So that's really the lesson that I want to impart on my sisters, and it's so important. And things are changing right now very rapidly.
But it is so important because you're also setting the bar for yourself, right? You're telling yourself what you're worth when you accept certain opportunities. And if you tell yourself that you're going to take something less than what you think you're worth, that's just lowering the bar for yourself, and you can't start out like that. Starting out, you start high, you just get higher and higher. Absolutely. Awesome. Any more questions?
Hi there. I guess my question is, how would you like the non-Muslim community to help be more in your corner? How can I do that for you?
Important one.
The answer is so simple. The answer is pass the mic. Whenever you have the opportunity to, and there's a lived experience that you can't speak to, pass the mic to somebody that can. And that can look like a variety of different ways. You know, for example, in the most basic, most accessible sense, it could be you being on Twitter and seeing someone tweet about something that helped you learn something new, and you hit retweet on it, or you send it along to people that you think it'll resonate with. It's sharing an article written by a byline from a person of color that we need to hear from. There are so many ways to be able to do that. And also, I will say that I don't think, truly in my heart, like, Muslim Girl would not have reached the level that it is at today if it weren't for our allies that were in the rooms that we hadn't yet entered, who spoke our names into those spaces, who pulled us in to have a seat at the table. And if it weren't for those allies, then it would have been so much more challenging to break through those spaces by ourselves. But it's being authentic and really showing up for people whenever you can. And I can't tell you just the impact it has. Actually, one of the examples that I shared during one of my talks earlier this week is that Getty Images partnership that I explained to you guys. That one happened because I was walking down the street one day in New York City, and I just happened to, by sheer coincidence, run into a woman that had only been an acquaintance of mine at that time, now is one of my closest friends in the industry. But she is the executive director of the Gina Davis Institute. She actually spoke here last year, and she was on her way into a Getty Images meeting. And she just like grabbed me off the street and was like, yo, Amani, like, what are you doing right now? You don't have anything? Come with me right now, like, come into this meeting with me. And while I was in the meeting, they were like talking about all these ideas. And I just happened to blurt out, like, we need more stock photos for Muslim women showing us in a more authentic light. And immediately, right at that table, they're like, we're doing it. And I walked out with one of the biggest partnerships that we have to this day. And so there's two lessons in that, is show up for people, show up, be your sister's keeper, but also when you are in that space, don't let imposter syndrome silence you, because it could have been so easy when the opportunity presented itself to just let the big kids do the talking and for me to just like sit there and just like not say anything. But just speaking up when that moment happens, when you do finally get your foot in the door, it can change everything. So it goes on both ends where that collaboration, that opportunity takes place.
And I really want to double down on that pass the mic piece, right? And that's why I appreciate Adrienne so much for giving us this space today, because it's exactly what she does. It's what she did with us and what she's been doing all week, does every year here on Inkwell Beach. So really important.
Hi, Courtney Jones. I'm one of the CCDC volunteers. I'm just curious, what's next? What are you guys looking forward to on each of your respective platforms for Muslim Girl and for Color Me podcast? What are you excited to talk about? What are you excited to engage with your communities with? What are you excited to bring other communities into? What can we all look forward to in the coming year, 6 months, whatever you decide?
For me, it's partnerships, right? I understand the power of community, and I want to partner with, other Muslim women and other people of color, but I also want to partner with allies, right? A big part of being here in Cannes is, having conversations with people from all different organizations and backgrounds, and creating those opportunities to network and make partnerships and connections. So for me, it's really, anyone here that's interested in partnering with a Muslim woman on the podcast, that would be for me what I'm looking forward to in the next year, especially.
It's a really good question. And I never like to put a cap on it because Muslim Girl has gone places where I never even imagined. But I will say that, our philosophy is to always reach people in the way that they understand best. It's actually a philosophy that I learned from my faith in Islam. We believe that historically, all the prophets were sent to the people of the people, right? Because they knew the culture, they knew the tongue. And I approach our messaging in the same exact way. Whoever we're trying to reach, we have to do so in the way that they best are able to receive that message. And we've come such a long way, but there's still so much further for us to go. And I say that very symbolically, not just literally in different languages, which is, of course, on the agenda, inshallah, but also just in terms of the types of media that we've expanded into, the types of industries we've broken into, the spaces where we've broken those glass ceilings. There's still a way to go. And we've said since day one at Muslim Girl that we are going to make it impossible for anyone to have a conversation about us without us. And we've gotten so far to that goal, and I'm excited for what comes next as we continue pushing that forward.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for our round of questions. I want to thank you again, Amani, for joining me on the stage today. Incredible conversation with you always.
Thank you so much. Honored to be here as always. And wow, I'm wishing you all like a wonderful closeout to 2023 Cannes Lions, because what a week it's been. And I hope that, especially with all the inspiring conversations we've been having in this space at Inkwell, we've all taken something away from here that we're going to carry with us until next year, back at the beach.
All right, we are ready for the next panel. Applause, applause. We are almost done, guys. Like, this is Friday. You would think it was Monday, the beginning. We still have the same energy. We still have lots of people here. We're super excited for the Can Diversity Inkwell Collective's. I call it the Inkwell Collective. That's how you know the day is long. Okay, the Can Diversity Collective's Inkwell Beach, one of our final panels of the day. I'm super excited to bring the next group up. 3 of them are our previous ambassadors. They've come back to volunteer, and we have a special guest joining them, Brandon McCleary, who's the co-founder and president of Yellow Party. So everybody come on up. We're going to have a conversation on the power of creative impact, using creativity to transform and build community. Give them a round of applause.
Hello, hello. How's it going? We need energy. We need energy. How's it going?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Friday.
There we go. Thank you all. This is our second of last panel. This has been a long, phenomenal week of great programming. So we want to have a conversation to bring 3 folks and my good brother, Brandon McCleary, together to have a conversation about creative impact, but more importantly, how we use such to build community, not only in our communities and back home in the States, but around the world. So we'll just go down the panel and do some brief introductions. And I'll start off with Lo Harris to my left.
Hey, y'all. I said, hey, y'all.
Hey,
That's right. My name is Lo Harris. I am a visual artist, and I am so happy to be here. I used to be an ambassador with the Can Diversity Collective. I'm passing it on.
How's it going, everyone? Very excited to join you today. So I work on the commercial partnerships team at Cannes Lions, but today I'll be speaking to you about my brand, Yellow Party. So,
What's going on, everybody? My name is Marcus Gilmore, and I as well was a CCDC ambassador last year, and this year we joined Adrian to really bring that voice here. And excited to join this panel and really have those conversations about creativity, community, and things that you all can take away like today and apply through creativity.
And my name is Washington. I know you probably all see me all week running around, making sure everything is running smoothly. So it feels good.
Yeah.
Thank you, much appreciated. So it feels good to be sitting here looking down at the audience and joining you all in conversation. I am the co-founder, creator of Washington Strategic Ventures, which is my company, and super blessed to have been here to help elevate the CCDC Inkwell experience as a production partner, along with the fantastic people I have to my left. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and just jump into the conversation. And this is very much a conversation, not only with the folks here on the stage, but it's a conversation with those here in the audience as well. I want to start it off just with, we talk about building a community. We talk about creative impact. Can you just tell me just about the importance of how community has played in your life as being a creative?
I think that community is the lifeblood of everything that I do. I think that good art can't be made in isolation. And I feel like in order to move forward, in order to grow as a creative, you need to surround yourself with people who are invested in your mutual growth. I think community is one of the first things that a person should seek when they're coming up, and it's the last thing they should stop seeking even when they make it. So,
yeah, so I come from a large family full of creatives, and so I think that community aspect was like kind of instilled within me from a young age, and yeah, I feel like, because my parents are musicians, and so I felt like, I was playing the piano and, the guitar before I could even speak. So I feel like that creativity was kind of just, ingrained in me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so, yeah, just kind of bridging that gap between like that community aspect and creativity, that's something that we just kind of grew up with, so.
Sure.
Yeah, no, and I'm with everybody here on stage. I mean, from a large family to a digital community to even coming here. This is my second year at Cannes, and like you can feel that it's important to tap back in. And I use I didn't use WhatsApp that much until I came here, and you realize, like, okay, I have to continue to tap in there and really unite with the people that I've met and build relationships, because that allows you to continue to grow.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we're gonna turn up to the.
We got
like,
a party
the
going on in the
bass is bumping. I can't
background.
even hear my thoughts.
We competing, but look, we're gonna make it happen. So we talk about community, and we typically we're born in communities, and then there's communities that we create as we matriculate through life, friends, school, and all these different things. How have you all gone about creating your own communities? I know, Brandon, you have Yellow Party, that takes place in New York City, and it's a place where not only have you created community in a sense of, having a good time, but creating community in the sense of networking, being able to bring people together with the same common goal to have a good time, but also to unwind and get to know other folks. So can you just all talk to me about like how you went about creating this, your own various forms of community today? Yeah.
Absolutely. So a lot of times, like, you're building your community without even realizing it. And that was my case with Yellow Party. So, just a little bit of context. I've been in New York. Shout out to all the New Yorkers out there.
All right, where the New Yorkers at? Where the New Yorkers at? Stand up.
Yeah, since 2018. So the past 5 years now. And, I live with my two brothers, my two blood brothers. And we all have a bunch of friends in New York, but kind of different scenes. I feel like we kind of just, all of our worlds kind of collided. So we were constantly, going to brunch with our friends and, hanging out, hosting events at our apartment rooftop. And it was funny. One day, my brother Gabe, he became obsessed with the color yellow. He was like, guys, like, we go to brunch all the time. What if we did an all yellow brunch?
Hey.
And we looked at him. We were like,
like, hold up, bro. What's going on?
It was so random. But we were like, wait, but that's actually a cool idea. So, we started planning this brunch out. And before you know it, we started telling all our friends about it. It seemed like we had the entire city of New York, like, just invested into it. And so we were like, no, we need to make this an actual thing. We had the event, a huge hit. And before you knew it, we had our community. We had people following us and, anticipating what we had, going on for the past 3 years now. And so, just really organically, as long as you, respectful and, put good intentions out there, I feel like, it's very, very easy to just organically build a community that way.
Absolutely. I'm gonna jump to you, Lo.
Would it be out of pocket for me to ask for the music to turn down just a little bit?
It's from the other beach. We can't control it.
Oh, okay.
No
I thought that was us. I was like, dang.
No worries.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump to Marcus. I'm gonna answer you for the segue. So Marcus, I mean, you're a brother that I've known who has, Euro stepped through so many cities, within the country, the states, and also around the world. From Dallas to New York, and to now being in D.C. With someone being in so many different places, how have you went about building and growing communities in so many unique different places?
Yeah, and that is true. Like the moving to different cities, you realize it's important to let people know when you move. Like, hey, I'm moving to D.C. Can you connect me with a person in advertising? Give me the hottest DJs. Give me restaurant owners, and then I go there and build those relationships. My mom always told me, you only get one chance to make that first impression.
Absolutely.
You don't get a second opportunity. So it's always making sure that I connect with those people in those different cities. I think too, it's like I go back, right? Like I go back to New York, I go to Dallas and visit family and make sure I get friends together and we grow alongside each other rather than like, okay, I left Dallas, now I don't talk to anybody. No, I still need that network to continue to grow and bring the knowledge that I learned living in New York, right? It's a hustle city. Even coming to here or going to London or out the country, like you need to take that information and bring it back to your community wherever you're from and give that back to them. So I think that is super important. And also like finding those niches, right? Like I work in experiential, so there's a group of experiential designers and 3D artists and producers. And when I touch those cities, I make sure that I tap in with them so I can continue to build that relationship.
For sure. And Lo, I mean, as a multi-hyphenate artist who's touched so many areas of creativity, we had opportunity of getting to know each other last year at Cannes Lion and here, at CCDC. and then had the opportunity to be in Dubai back in March at the Dubai Links conference, and to see you navigate in so many spaces, not having fear of interacting with people, approaching some of the top creative folks in the world and building your own creativity and communities with them. Can you talk to us more about like how you go about launching and establishing community in the way that you go about it?
I'm a firm believer that nobody is any better or any worse than anyone else.
Absolutely.
And so one of my superpowers, and I joke with this with my friends, is that I don't really know who anybody is when I approach them. I'm just here for a good time. So when I go up to people, I always opt to treat them with respect because that's the foundation to any community. Communities are built not from, the who's who and like who can give you what, but real true community is built from a foundation of mutual respect, of kindness,
Absolutely.
and of authentic collaboration. And so for me, it feels very natural for me to go up and to speak to people. It feels very natural for me to try to collaborate and find ways to connect, because at the end of the day, there's that energy. And I think that energy is what pushes me forward.
Absolutely. I mean, even for myself, being the youngest of four and always being someone who always felt like the only child in some senses, because my brother, he was an artist, he was very recluse, and my sisters, they were sisters, so they were together, so it was always just me. So I was always mobbing, making moves on my own. So everywhere I went, I had to kind of create my own community. But what was great about it was I just moved very authentically. So wherever I went, I always attracted the people who was for me.
Yeah.
And understanding when we are establishing communities and establishing friend groups, there's a deep significance to how important it is to what you ultimately want to do in life. Because what they say, the people around you can, sometimes, decide your not necessarily your fate, but where your direction. So, so to my next question, we're here in Cannes. Brandon, this is your first time. This is our second time. In what ways have you all thought about building community this time around, in this second go around? And Brandon, you are official. You work with Cannes Lion, and once again with Yellow Party. Can you just talk about this second time around? Maybe Marcus and Lo, just how it was being here, this on the rebound, and how was it building community here on the ground this time, in contrast to last year being your first time?
Who wants to go first?
You take it, Lo, always.
Okay. So for me, last year, I got up on stage for my cultural update, and I shared that I had given away 80 business cards that time, and I was so proud of myself. But this year, I found that I wanted to approach it a little bit differently because it was my first time in Cannes, and I was just going up to people, and I was like, hey, my name is Lo Harris, and I do X, Y, and Z. What do you do? Blah, 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 blah. And that's just not the way that works for me personally. I found that it's super helpful for me to really kind of say, okay, like I want to have a conversation with a person. I just want to connect with that person. And I really want to keep it natural. So
Absolutely.
This time around, I really just embodied myself. I tried to center myself and say, okay, who am I? What kind of jokes do I want to tell? What kind of people seem like very open to my energy? And I think that really influenced the way that I was able to build those connections with people. And, you never know who anyone is, really.
Absolutely, for sure. Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, like, Inkwell Beach is that community center, right? Like, a lot of people come back every single day. And the people that I met last year, I knew that they were going to come here. So I'm like, okay, I know that they're going to be here, and I'm going to make sure I speak and say hello. But truthfully, it started about 3 weeks ago. I posted a photo on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, if you're going to be in Cannes, I'll be there. Send me a message. Let's link up. And kept it super open. And it turned out like there were people that I reached out to, or when I posted that, they sent me messages like, hey, let's grab a drink. Let's meet along the Palais or at the Palais or things like that. So it started earlier, and now when I get here, now I can lock in and really schedule that time, right? Because in partnership here, working with CCDC, like I have to schedule my time to make sure that I nurture those relationships. It's not a one and done thing. And even the people that I did meet last year, and I realized I didn't follow up after, because following up is a muscle. You got to train that muscle. You can't just connect and that's it. We saw each other and like, that's on us. Like we looked at each other and like, that's on us. We should connect. And so it's already in my calendar. Like when I get back from the holiday, like July 9th or whatever, I already have in my calendar, send the follow-up messages, set up the meetings for the next 3 months. And that's how I'm going to continue these relationships and build that community.
Absolutely. And, this is a conversation about community, but also it's about creativity. Because, we're up here with some pretty dope folks. So I don't know if the audience is hip, but these are some pretty cool, creative folks up here. I just want to, absolutely, thank you. I want you to welcome the audience into the world of your creativity. What's your superpower? What makes you fluent?
I'm gonna let someone else go first. I want to marinate in that.
Got it.
I can kind of speak on that.
Yeah.
I think one of my superpowers, I would say, is not being afraid to grow in public. You know what I mean?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's really easy, especially as a creative, to kind of get caught up in perfectionism, and trying to get every single detail right. But I feel like, especially what I've seen with Yellow Party, is people have been able to kind of follow our journey and see the real raw growth, and see all the flaws, and back when we couldn't even afford all the videographers and all the production people that we work with now. They just saw everything from a raw lens, and they were able to kind of grow with us, and that's how we really built our fan base and our our community. So I think as a creative, you can't get too in your head. You got to just allow people to grow with you. So I think
that's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, first off, great question. The superhero kind of thought process is like, it's moving for me. Some days it's this superpower of being able to not be fearful, or it's even just being able to connect with people at a foundational level of community or family, or sometimes it's going to someone and talking about work. Like, that is not always the best way. So being able to connect with people in a way that they feel they'll let their shoulders drop. And I think that that's one of my key skills, is knowing how to let people relax and be comfortable, and then let's have that conversation about whatever, if it's coming up with new brand ideas. And I talk shop a lot. Like, I talk about activations and experiential, but also we could talk about whatever's going on in the news, music, sports, and film. And I stick to that. Like, I'm not going to go and waver too far out of the things that I'm comfortable with and match those things with someone else.
Absolutely.
I would say, kind of off of that, my superpower is to be generous with my ideas. I think that oftentimes when you're a marginalized person and you're in a small creative community, it can be extremely easy to be hyper-protective of your space in the industry or your space in the community, and that creates a lot of gatekeeping, whether you mean to or not. And for me, I am very open on my platforms of really encouraging and sharing advice to BIPOC creatives who are trying to find their way in freelancing. And people have said, like, oh, you need to stop that. You need to, people need to pay for that or whatever. You're giving away all your trade secrets. But I think that is my superpower, because, it's not enough to just hold the door open. You have to open it wider. You have to kick the door off.
Bill.
Yes, applaud.
I mean, for me, storytelling, the art of storytelling was something that I've been enamored with since I was a kid. Just growing up, reading about the Harlem Renaissance, and in the way that music moved culture, and the way culture moved music. And then growing up and getting to a point where, I was, preparing to, go to law school, preparing to go into intellectual property law, and figuring out, like, is it something I really want to do, or do I actually want to create? Do I want to protect the ideas of other creators, or do I want to be the one creating? And then made that pivot, and now I'm in a space where not only am I telling the stories of other people's, I'm also able to tell the stories that I love, the stories that really empower me to go out into the world and do more things, to be more for more people. And a part of this conversation is about transforming communities through creativity. So when you think about your creative abilities and your superpowers, how have you all been able to use those to transform not only the spaces you occupy, but the places that are beyond you and beyond the places that you live and you frequent?
I could probably touch on that one. So one of the biggest things that one of our biggest mantras with Yellow Party is all characters welcome. all characters welcome. That's something that we always, just embed into our branding and our messaging. And it's something that we really carry out. And I think, instilling that in everything that we do, we've been able to build a community of people in so many different industries, so many different cultures. And it's really a reflection of who we are. So like, even I do it with my brothers, but me and my brothers were all so different, and we learn from each other. One of my good friends who's also in our group, he's Nigerian. My brother Gabe, he's part of the LGBTQ plus community. It's just so many different communities that we're kind of bringing together, and that people that aren't necessarily always in the same room, we're kind of making a point to put them all in the same room and, let them know that everyone can vibe out, everyone can learn off each other, everyone can grow with each other. And so, I think in terms, it's going to have a global impact because it's giving us more reach.
Really love that.
Yeah,
Marcus?
for me, and definitely coming from the agency space, it starts truthfully in our brief, right? Like we have a saying at our agency at We Are Social. It's focusing on going beyond just the doors of our community. Like we have to go beyond whatever we create. It has to be bigger than that. And it starts with even just like our freelancers that we bring in. Who's designing a mural or who's designing the merch? Like we need to tap into other communities and not just go to the same group all the time. And so literally for us, it starts at the brief. Go outside the borders of our community to expand their reach and bring new audiences in.
Look.
I feel like for me, I really am passionate about young people, and I'm really passionate about college students, folks who are just coming up. And so part of that passion is really manifested through my involvement with the Can Diversity Collective and the group of ambassadors who have come in this year. I've really loved being able to really step in and cultivate an experience for them that is meaningful and that makes them feel supported. And for me, that's highly rewarding because I feel like, these people are probably going to be hiring me one day. These people are going to be going to heights that I can't even imagine. And for me, if I can be it doesn't hurt me at all to be a person who is one small piece of that success story for them, just as much as other people have really stepped in to be a small piece of my success story. So the more I give out, the more I get back. And I do feel like, it keeps the cycle flowing.
The investment part is what they say. It's the investment part for me.
Yeah, it's an investment. It's an
absolutely.
investment. And when people are investing, especially in young people, I think that's what really creates longer term change, because community isn't just a bunch of people with similar jobs or similar interests. Like community has to have a growth aspect to it, which means that you have to be planting seeds and putting in efforts towards creating the next generation of what that community can look like. You have to start planting trees that you might not ever see bloom, you know what I mean? And you have to be comfortable with making that investment, even if you're not bearing the fruit of it.
I love that. Go ahead, keep going.
I'm about to say,
keep going.
That's a bar right there. There's nothing to say after that one.
Got it. No, just to that point though, investing in the talent is so important, not only for creating global impact, because we live in a global creator economy, but also to be able to do that to build community, but also to transform that. So there's an organization that I've been with for the last few years named the Marcus Graham Project. And there's some folks here in the audience that are familiar with the Marcus Graham Project who participated. And it's an organization that focuses on taking BIPOC talent from around the world and bringing them together, in a cohort and training them and developing them for that creative industry. And in that time, in over 16 years, this organization has produced some of the most fluent, dopest, creative talent in the world, amassing an alumni base of over 800 professionals. And now you look at them being in the industry for 16 years, these folks are now C-suite, executive creative director roles who are doing it. So when you talk about transforming communities through creativity and building community, that investment piece is huge. And I know we're getting close to time. I want to be able to leave some opportunities and some moments to really engage the audience and open it up for a conversation, as mentioned. Can we have someone for the audience come grab a mic and just field any questions that we may have? Miles? Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Miles.
Any questions?
Question.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm a CCDC scholar. As someone who's not a creative, what would you advise us in how to build community in our individual professions?
What industry are you in, or what's your role?
I'm an account manager in healthcare for
Yeah.
public relations.
I mean, listen, I'm account as well, account brand strategy, and I think like that's okay. Like there's tons of account people that are around, but it's building me and you. We need to connect after this and talk about like, hey, what are you learning? How do you present? What is something important that you need to say when you're presenting to a client, or what does your recap decks look like? Like that's important for us to succeed, and even
Yes.
knowing how to manage the team. I have to talk to creatives, producers, data, like being able to know what information they need to get the job done. We only can talk amongst ourselves to get that information. So that's part of the community. It's finding those other account managers, people that lead the entire business. That's who we need to be talking to on a consistent basis, because they've gotten to the top, and we want to get there if you want to. But like, that's where it starts.
Absolutely, and I want to build on that. Creativity is in everything. Some of the greatest account directors and brand managers and project managers are creative, because you have to be creative in those spaces when you're dealing with clients. You have to come up with solutions. You have to be able to understand, your copywriters, your art directors, your graphic designers. So really being able to, have that position of having the experience of, being in an account space, but always know that creativity is in with everything you do, and it's upon you to discover that creativity and apply it to your role, and that's what makes you that unicorn that you're already becoming.
Thanks.
I just want to double down too and say that creativity, like you said, is one of the most innate forms of humanity. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're good at math, you are creative. You don't have to be an artist, you don't have to be a designer. Creativity is a part of the human experience, and you can tap into that in any way, shape, or form.
Of that.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Diller.
Hi, Evelyn Gonzalez, Dillard University. My question is geared more towards Lo. As an artist, in what ways do you use your artistry to build change and impact your community, that you can give some advice to those who are specifically artists?
Absolutely. So for me, I think that the best way that I can create art that creates change is to really tap into my own identity. I can't really tell anyone's story but my own. I can always assist people through like my technical skills or telling their stories, but I find that my work that has the most impact oftentimes is work that is really rooted in my feelings and my experiences at a specific point in time. So back in 2020, my art career really took off because I created this piece called Justice. It was during around the time of the George Floyd killing. It was around the time of COVID, and the picture is a woman, a black woman, with a mask on and her fist in the air, and it just says justice in it. And that piece went viral on social media, and it resonated with a lot of people because it was it was a piece of a specific place and a specific time. It really resonated with people during a very specific time, and that was my story. I didn't draw it to get attention. I didn't create it to build a following. It was just something that was a way for me to heal, and it happened to really resonate with a lot of people. So I think the more that you can tap into yourself and your story and tell it as authentically as you can through your artistry, you'd be surprised how many people really relate to that. What?
Target.
Oh, you can say it for me.
This FYI, my panel's being very humble up here.
Yeah, she is.
I need y'all to pop y'all shit, please.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Before she goes, like Lo, like the recent partnership that you had that was featured in Target, and like that's global impact. That is taking your thoughts and your creativity and putting it out there, and then getting a deal signed off that stuff. Excuse me, and it's like that's driving it. Like that's big and that's huge, and I want people to know that about you. And
I appreciate that. But you know, it's so deeply personal to me that I just don't even notice that it's making an impact because I'm just doing my own thing.
I know.
But I am a Target, so you can go find that.
Awesome. Yes. Hi, Cheyenne, CCDC ambassador, and forgive me if you might have already touched on this, but I find that in the conversation of community, we're talking about building and building and building, but I would love to know if you guys had any tips on sustaining a community. Like, how do you keep people engaged after you bring them into your messaging?
I could take this one, definitely. And that's a great question, too. I think the biggest thing is listening to your community. And as simple as that is, you'll be surprised how many people don't listen. But yeah, understanding your community, understanding what they want, understanding what makes them excited, understanding, what they're looking to do. I feel like a lot of times, we get so focused on our own goals and building our own brands, we have the wrong mindset sometimes, you know what I mean? But if you change your mindset to what can I do to make my community happy? What is my community looking to do? And if you start putting the people first, that's how you continue growing and retaining your community. So,
yeah, I mean, we have all the tools. We got GroupMe, WhatsApp, all these spaces, and I realized, like, don't be afraid to set up the meetup in the city, like wherever you are. Like, don't be afraid. Some people will show, 3 people show, 5. That's successful in engaging, sustaining that relationship. Because once you drop the photo in the chat, they be like, dang, I missed out. And that's like engaging, but also providing value there, right? Like more than just dropping an event. Like if you hear something, part of the presentation is dropping that in there and saying, hey, like I heard this is great for somebody. Like being able to add value to that group provides that sustainability.
And I'd like to add that I feel like a very necessary and healthy part of being in a community is being able to relinquish your ego, especially when you're a community leader. The community isn't a vanity project. The community is about giving without expectation and receiving without expectation for a common cause.
This conversation was intentionally set for a lot of you ambassadors, because I remember us leaving last year, and the art of follow-up is super huge, especially being in a place like this where everyone is mingling and connecting and networking. It's important for you as you establish your communities to not only understand that it's important to follow up, but it's important to be consistent. And it's also important to be valuable to your community and to your network. You want to be mutually valuable. So, when you're contacting folks, when you're reaching out, it's not just always, asking what can be done for you, but, how can you be of service? Being and living a life of service, knowing that all things come back to you. For me, I'm about just like creating strategy, in regard to how I network and how I move, but also pausing on all the technical and logistical things and just trusting intuition and trusting the spirit and being able to move around and attract the things, the people, the life, all the feelings, the emotions that you want in life, and those things it's a semi-philosophical, but it's very true. I think if you take the time to reflect in this very moment or on your way back home and think about the people you met, and think about the energy in which you was moving in that moment when you met, and think about how powerful that is, that the way you were moving, the things you thought about on the plane here and on that long flight, and how you were able to manifest those things just by being yourself. So more importantly than it is, upholding your network and building your community is being the person you want your community to resemble. So, because you're going to attract what your community is. So spend time on working on self, growing, healing, being a contributive factor to your community, being in service of others is super important because it helps you remove that ego and move with a God flow to be able to attract the things that are necessary and purposeful and intentional for you. We have time for more questions, so please feel free. Keep them coming. If not, we'll do one more question. I see there's a question in the back. Or I see there's one in the front. That was me forcing somebody to raise their hand in the back by calling out the back.
I would like to know, so everybody is talking nowadays about the AI. Do you think they might be like instrument for you to grow your community, or where do you see new inspirations, and where do you see more possibilities to grow your community?
Is that through AI, was your question?
Yeah, AI is one of the possibilities as other inspirations that might come up to you or in the future coming up.
So one thing about AI, it's a tool that we've heard it a million times on stages. It's a prompt, right? You have to prompt it and you have to give it that information. I think too, it's like, I need to go learn about how to prompt it in a way to build the communities. Like I don't think it's there yet. And I think that's the factor, is like, how do you learn how to prompt it to deliver community development? I think there are going to be some advancements in tools that people are going to use, websites where you can go and gather that information, but I don't see it today right now.
And did you get any inspirations here while attending Cannes Lions, how you can grow your community?
You know, I'm going to say no. Yeah, not right now.
I would hop in here as a visual artist because I think there is a lot of anxiety in the visual community around things like Midjourney. But weirdly enough, I've found that there's been a lot of community that has been built around AI. There are a lot of artists who are trading tips on prompting. I don't necessarily think that traditional art is going to go away. I think that you still have to have that human touch, but I do think that, you know, it's a medium. I think of AI as a medium, and I think that just like certain mediums like digital art communities, oil painters, like more modern pieces, sculptors, woodworking, artist studios, I think that community will develop in that realm as well. So I think that community can exist among spaces like AI.
So to add and to build and wrap as well, I think, you know, AI is a tool, you know, and using that to, if you're someone who already is building communities, you know, like Yellow Party, you know, like a question that Brandon's already asking himself, you know, how am I able to use AI in a way to, you know, create prompts, to write copy, and to do the things that his team is spending time doing that can be automated through technology, which is another layer or nuance of how AI is being used in that form. So there's so many ways in my perspective, and even in my way I use things, AI nowadays, it's like I'm using it for simple tasks like, you know, social media posts, you know, reaching out through, you know, blogs and subscription posts to folks who subscribe to my website and to my link tree. And as a way to help continually grow my community, but do it more efficiently so I can spend more time actually being present with community and not being the one trying to bring everyone together and hosting and then not actually being able to connect. Because once again, to the last statement, you want to be the person and be the thing that is attracting the type of community you want. So in my usage, and it's very young, and we are still at the precipice of it, but being able to use it as a tool until it comes to a point where it's something beyond that. But I think right now, that's been a fantastic, phenomenal way to really leverage such a phenomenal technology and tool. Was there any other builds?
No, you said that perfectly. You said it better than I did. That's what I'm talking about.
I got your back, brother.
Always.
One last question.
This one is for Marcus. I'm curious to your previous answer, why not?
Why not? Because I see it from, why I said why not is I use it in a simple task like writing copy and taking notes and recording conversations. But then when I think about how I think about experiential, and as you see, there weren't any activations in the spaces along here where you walked in and there was like AI-focused experiences. None. So that's why I said not yet. Like, I don't see it right now. I mean, you saw posters, right? But like not a full experience that says, you prompted and something happens for you to enter a beach. Nowhere. So that's why I said that.
All right. Thank you, Thank you, Miles. Appreciate you for your help. I just want to wrap it up and say thank you all for your time and your attention today. I want to just leave the panel just with the opportunity to leave some lasting words, whether it's to our ambassadors, to the folks here who decided to spend the rest of your afternoon with us, or just one word or some words of wisdom. But just anything you want to leave with the audience before we leave the stage.
I would say that always remember that people will, if they might not remember your name, they might not remember your face, but they will remember how you make them feel. So continue to treat everyone with respect, no matter who they are or how you met them, because you never know what can be done in the future.
That's a good one. That's a good one. If I had one thing to leave you all with, especially for any like entrepreneurs in the room, I would say just take that leap. Don't overthink, and don't, like I said earlier, don't be afraid to grow in public. You're constantly inspiring people each day, and everything that you're working towards is for a reason. So allow people to see that. Allow people to see you grow.
Yeah, I mean, you all are saying great things. I think like your 9 to 5 and your entrepreneurship, your 5 to 9, everybody's entrepreneurship is different, but also find your passions. But I mean, continue to enjoy moments like this. And again, follow-up is a muscle. So when you do follow up with intention with the people that you met, and continue to build those communities that you fostered here.
Absolutely. And I'll just add and wrap here. This is not only for the ambassadors, because this is a human thing. Remain curious and lean into fear, because on the other side of that is bliss and the things that you're actually maybe running from or afraid of. So be curious as you can be and lean into fear, because your greatest version of yourself is on the other side of that. So thank you all. I appreciate you. You all have been amazing. Thank you all for just being here for this whole entire week. There's been so many beautiful faces that's in the audience who've been showing up and showing out and representing, making Inkwell the greatest beach in all of Can Lyon. Shout out to Adrian C. Smith and CCDC. We thank you, we appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you all next year. Have a good one.
Before we all go, of course, we want all the CCDC volunteers and ambassadors to take a picture. We want to end this programming, this week of amazing programming, the way we started, with a motivational, talk and conversation with some of our amazing volunteers. And so as soon as we take this photo, if you guys stay, we have a few more minutes. We're just going to have a couple of quick words and a quick session on how we're staying motivated and the positivity of the space of creativity. So if they will come up and get ready to get set on the stage so we can close out today's sessions.